I want to talk today about another term that you are hearing more and more frequently if you're in the recovery world, and that's called a scarcity mindset. And I think the danger when people hear that term is that they think scarcity mindset has to do with growing up in poverty, never having enough money, always living from paycheck to paycheck, and they think that's where scarcity mindset comes from. And it's possible that it can come from that. But what I really want you to understand is scarcity mindset comes from a much bigger picture than that. So think of complex trauma this way. Complex trauma is a child living in scarcity. It could be around their physical needs, so there's poverty. But it could be around their emotional needs, that they're not getting acceptance, they're not getting connection, they're not getting love, they're not getting belonging and respect and tenderness. And so scarcity isn't just about lack of money in the physical world to meet physical needs. It's about scarcity when it comes to the meeting of any of our 12 needs. And so scarcity mindset can come out of complex trauma very easily. So another way that to think about this, and you may not have even put this together or heard of it, but there's a new kind of trauma that's being talked about, and that's called poverty trauma. And so it could be you grew up in poverty, but it's also really any scarcity. You grew up with a poverty that comes out of a chronic lack of certain needs being met, instability, and insecurity. And those then shape your nervous system, they shape your beliefs, they shape your identity. So it's not that you went through a bad financial period that would be classified as poverty trauma exclusively. It's that your body learned that life is unpredictable, unstable, and so you have to always stay on your guard to survive. And I think that's just a fascinating way to understand complex trauma. It's scarcity. It's a poverty trauma. And so that's what leads to this term scarcity mindset. So a scarcity mindset is a mental and nervous system pattern where the brain is always constantly tracking what's missing. So it operates off the belief that there isn't enough. There's not going to be enough. And so not going to be enough time, not going to be enough money, not going to be enough energy, not going to be enough opportunities, connection, belonging, love, support, validation. And so it's always tracking all of these different needs. Is there going to be enough today? Is there going to be enough today? And then it's organizing its life, making decisions as if there's not enough. That's what a scarcity mindset is. So you're operating off a deep belief that comes out of childhood that there's not enough, there's not going to be enough. So now I make decisions, even today when I might have enough, as if there's not enough. And so with that, what's important to understand, it's not just the belief that there's not enough. It produces a sense of urgency, this constant stress and pressure that you have to act now. You have to act quickly, impulsively in order to try to get needs met. And so it shapes how you think, it shapes how you feel, it shapes how you act. And so again, this you can see develops in an environment where a child had scarcity, physical poverty, or always moving, instability. Housing was changing, jobs were changing, mom in and out of relationships, constant insecurity, or chronic emotional deprivation. All of those things create a sense there's not enough in a child. And so the child learns, if I don't stay on top of this, something important is going to run out. My needs will not get met. I will get hurt. I will suffer. So I have to be on guard, alert, on top of this to make sure I get taken care of. So it's an adaptation that a child has to real scarcity. The problem is it shapes your nervous system, and now as an adult, even though you're not in scarcity, your nervous system still operates as if it is. That's a scarcity mindset. So let me just again take this to our nervous system. So when a child feels there's scarcity, what it then does is goes out of its ventral vagal system. It doesn't feel safe anymore and goes to its sympathetic vagal state. And there, its attention focuses on the problem. So it gets tunnel vision, we call it. And everything now becomes urgent. I can't think long term. I got to think to solve this in the moment. So instant protection, instant gratification. Now risk feels higher. You're more cautious. You're more impulsive. You're on guard. And all of that causes you to just lock in on the problem, on the lack of the scarcity, and you don't enjoy the rest of life. You filter out all the other things that are happening, and you get obsessed with the scarcity. That's what's going on in that sympathetic vagal state that you are now in. So let me give you kind of the common signs that you might see in your life today that you have a scarcity mindset. So let's start with money. So around money, you might feel broke even when you're not in immediate danger. So you're always living with this fear of running out of money. You might have anxiety every time you spend some money, even when it's on necessities, even when you do have money in the bank, you still feel anxiety. And then you might go to one of two extremes. You might hoard just so you make sure you don't run out. Or when you do get a whole bunch of money, you just impulsively spend it. The first thing that you see that you like, you buy it. And so you have difficulty spending money wisely or saving money wisely. And then often once you spend money, then you feel guilty that you spent it. And you might get a really, really good job and might be stable in that job for a while, but you just have trouble trusting that the other shoe's not going to drop, that you're not going to somehow lose this job, that your life is stable. And then many people, they have trouble just looking at budgeting, looking at how their spending is going. That just creates too much anxiety around that. So it has a big effect around your finances, but it also has an effect around your time. So many people with a scarcity mindset, they always feel a sense of urgency. Like, I'm late, I'm running out of time, I got to do this or else it's not going to get done. So there's a chronic rushing. And then they tend to overpack their schedule, trying to fit as much in as possible. And they feel guilty if they stop and take a break or have a rest. And they always feel behind no matter what they do. So you can just feel the stress that they're putting on themselves, that I only got so much time. I got to get all of this done. I may not have enough time to do it. Go, 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 push, push, push. Then it changes how you think and make decisions. So now your focus is very short term. You solve the problems of today. You don't plan for tomorrow very well. You have a lot of difficulty seeing all the different options available to you and the different opportunities available to you because you just see the scarcity and you got that tunnel vision happening. And then many people begin to get mental fatigue because they just have been obsessing so much on all the things they're short of or think they're short of or they might run out of, and problem solving and trying to constantly calculate and worry about it, that they just exhaust themselves. And then many go into all or nothing thinking. They're not able to think in gray. They're not able to weigh out options that are more balanced. It's just, I got to do all this now or I can't do it at all. They just can't think in that middle space. And then many have just difficulty relaxing enough to think clearly. They're always in this panic rush mode that they they have a brain fog that goes with that. And then some of the core beliefs that come with this thinking is, and many of these are subconscious, you're not even aware that they're there, but there's never enough. I have to handle everything myself. If I relax, things will fall apart. I'm behind compared to others. Security can disappear at any time. And those beliefs can stay with you even when life improves. Then relationships. And this is where you start to get kind of added pain, because now you go into a relationship and you develop kind of a jealousy, clingy, needy attitude because you're afraid you're not going to get enough love. You're not going to get enough validation. You go into relationships and you want to be the center of attention where you get lots of validation. You're always kind of playing to get more validation. And so there's these hidden agendas in what you do to try to get their respect and validation and love. And people in relationships get tired of that because it's all about you now. Or you can go to, I don't need anyone. So the solution to not having enough is not need anyone and just be self-sufficient. So some do that. Others go very much to a fawning type of thing. I'm going to please you so that you'll meet my needs. For many of them, what they're longing for is their needs to be met. They don't know how to meet them themselves. They don't know how to get them appropriately met by others, but also connection. And to them, connection, if they don't have connection, they feel like they're going to die. They feel all alone. They feel abandoned, rejected. And so they're constantly longing for tastes of connection. And so fawning becomes a way to try to get a bit of a feeling of connection. Some go to sexual fawning. Some go to financial, giving gifts and gifts, trying to get feelings of connection. And then once they do get stuff, often they then feel guilty for it. And they live with this fear of being a burden, that if I have too many needs, you're going to get tired of me and then reject me. And then for many of them, they're always comparing themselves to others, what I have versus what others have. And they always pick points of comparison where they come out inferior. They lack. They don't have what others have. Poor me. And it just feeds this scarcity mindset. Some become quite controlling of the other person and how they spend money. And then they have lots of conflicts about spending money and using time. And it just causes conflict after conflict. So it begins to really harm and stress relationships. What I think is important to understand for many people is this scarcity mindset becomes a reinforcing loop. It feeds itself. So you have this stress constantly that there's not enough. So it's this urgency now, this fear that I got to do stuff to get enough. So you become reactive, you overwork, but then you get money, you overspend, or you hoard, or you avoid dealing with problems. And what does that do? That just reinforces, I don't have enough because I spent too much, or I feel guilty because I hoarded so much. And the stress increases, which creates a greater sense of urgency. And so you just continue in this loop that tightens more and more and more. So as we look at the healing part, the first thing that I would want to say to people is the challenge, and often the hardest part with this, is the scarcity mindset continues even when there's no longer scarcity. You now in a situation where you've got lots of money, you got a stable job, a stable home life, your needs are being met, but you still feel the scarcity mindset. So you have savings, but you still feel unsafe. You have time, you still feel rushed. You have support, you still feel alone. And so what's important to understand is, yes, we got to work to get better circumstances, but the issue is how our nervous system was trained. And so we have to be curious about that, understand that, and begin to help our nervous system know that it's okay, that it's not in a place of scarcity any longer. And that takes time. So you don't fix scarcity mindset by just be positive, positive thinking. You're shifting your nervous system from feeling it's got constant scarcity to know it has enough, to know that you're capable of taking care of it. So let me just give you a couple starting points with this. Many people find it helpful to just stop during the day and do right now sufficiency. So right now, I have enough for today. I've gone through my list of my 12 needs. I am able and I plan to meet each of those 12 needs today. I have enough. So you're keeping it very focused. You're keeping it small. You're keeping it to today. And that's where you have to start. You're not thinking about, do I have enough 6 months from now, a year from now? No, I have enough for today and I've thought it through. Then, once you're in that feeling of scarcity, so your nervous system is somehow triggered and you're starting to be stressed and panicked that maybe you don't have enough, you want to rush, you want to hoard, whatever, you then realize I'm slipping into tunnel vision again. I need to widen my vision. So I'm going to stop and say, what's available to me right now? Oh, I have friends that I could call. Oh, I do have money in the bank. Oh, I have this opportunity for support. And so you begin to broaden out of that tunnel vision to your supports, your support network, to the reality of your situation and the resources that you have. Third thing is many people begin to try to slow down their decisions. So let's say your scarcity mindset has been triggered and you feel really you need to phone somebody, be clingy, be needy, basically glom on to them and get them to take care of your needs. And you go, whoa, I'm going to sit with this for a couple hours before I make a phone call. Or if you got, I need to go out and buy something, you say, you know what? I'm going to sit on this and tomorrow I'll consider whether I need that. What you're realizing is when I get triggered into my sympathetic vagal state, I'm in my limbic brain. And my limbic brain has this sense of panic. Instant gratification is its only solution. And what you realize is it's distorted. It's not thinking clearly. And so if I can just say to my limbic brain, I'm not going to let you run the show today. I am going to just sit with these uncomfortable emotions. I can handle them. I'm going to find other things to do. And I'll come back to what you think is the need tomorrow and see if it's still there. And often you find out, wow, it's gone. Then the next thing that many people find is that they need to begin to develop a healthy balance of safe spending, safe planning of time, and so that you can spend a bit of money on needs and then not feel guilty about it. And so you're beginning to, in moderation, in balance, begin to relearn how to use money, how to use time, and not feel rushed, not feel you got to go all or nothing, not feel guilty when you spend on it. All of that becomes part of retraining your nervous system and developing new tools to meet the needs that you're feeling. And then final one is to build tiny buffers. So when you go to do something, you give yourself a little extra time. And if you're done early, you don't rush off to something else. You just relax for a little bit. You build a little bit of a financial cushion into your life so that you're not always feeling strapped, that you're right down to your final penny by the end of the week. So you're beginning to build a margin into your life that enables some of that pressure to come off of you. So I would suspect that for many of you, there's some elements of scarcity mindset that you're becoming aware of in your life. And I hope this will just help you begin to see it, to understand it. And then you can begin to be curious and explore why it's there, the ways that you've coped with it that haven't been healthy, and develop new ways to begin to retrain your nervous system.